The main battle in Girls und Panzer Der Film isn't simply the series' biggest battle, it's the culmination of everything that has come thus far. All the progress made by Ori as central competitors, and the friends they made along the way. And it's also quite possibly the best everyone comes together for the big battle scene in any show or film. So let's talk about why. The video this week is brought to you by my isekai light novel series Light Unto Another World. A soldier stranded on another world with no apparent way home decides to seize the opportunity given to him to make the sort of difference he couldn't make back home. But with only the ammo he was carrying, he'll have to rely on his wits, his new friends, and his faith if he is to survive. Light Unto Another World embraces the essence of what makes isekai as a genre fun, while adding a bit of unique spin on things. 10 volumes are already out, with more coming, hopefully later this year. So give it a look. Now, onto the video. So, we finally reached one of the segments of Girls und Panzer that I've been most excited to talk about in detail since I began making videos. The biggest hype moment probably in the entire series, and it seemed so good that Avengers Endgame tried to do the same thing, but it failed to pull it off quite as well. In case it wasn't obvious, spoilers ahead for their film. So, obviously, the scene, really two scenes, that I'm talking about here, surround the big team-up moment smack in the middle, almost literally, of Girls und Panzer Der Film. The stage has been set for the big battle, but it's about as big a mismatch as you can get. Ori is about to be pitted up against an opponent that outnumbers them by more than 3-1, while also having a much better tank lineup and much more experienced crews. Even worse, it's an annihilation match, which exacerbates the unfairness of the mismatch. Despite this, however, as we noted last time, Ori is determined to fight anyway, even though they have virtually no chance of victory. Luckily for Ori, us the audience, aren't the only ones aware of just how unfair this is. Right after we leave Miho and her friends from their battlefield observations, we see all of our familiar friends from the other schools traveling by their various preferred methods, reading some sort of message, as Darjeeling delivers a voiceover inspired by the coded message sent out to the French resistance ahead of D-Day. We're not told what exactly is going on here, though guesses could definitely be made, especially for the history nerds who recognize the poem, which keeps new viewers in an uncertain position akin to the Ori students as the lopsided battle looms. What's going to happen? We don't know. Similarly, when the next day arrives, we're not given any indication of what is coming until it actually happens. The focus early on in the scene is squarely on how disproportionate the battle is, and the low morale of Miho and Ori. She's flailing here, trying to think of anything that they could try in the face of this, while the visuals speak for themselves. Just compare the two team sizes. We can only imagine how it must feel for Miho and the others to stare that down, but remain determined to press on. While they're obviously not worried for their lives here, it certainly takes a measure of courage to partake in such an unfair match that's not only got a live audience, but is televised. So plenty of people are likely about to watch you get raffle stomped. But then, at almost literally the last moment, the cavalry arrives. Most fittingly, it's Maho who leads the charge to lend aid to her sister. Also, this is possibly the only film in history where tanks entering the scene to Panzer lead will elicit cheers, with each of the other participating schools each getting their introductory moments as tankery comes very close to crashing out as he realizes he's been outmaneuvered once again. It's really a short part of the film, and rather simple and straightforward, but it does so much. What truly makes the scene so great is less what takes place in it, but rather what makes it work so well. As I mentioned at the start of the video, we have a more recent scene which was very similar to this in many respects to compare to it. Of course, no one's going to argue that the portal scene in Avengers Endgame wasn't extremely hype, but for me at least, it's ultimately a lesser version of what we have here in their film, which, remember, came first, by the way. Of course, I've given quite a bit of thought into why that is, and I have come up with two main reasons. First, in something like Avengers, which is a superhero story, a big team-up to fight the big bad is a given. Expected. We'd already seen that in prior movies, including Infinity War, just on a somewhat lesser scale, and obviously everything had been leading to facing off with the Purple Man here. There was always going to be the big final fight, and they were going to have to include everyone. In Girls und Panzer, however, in large part due to the nature of the story, this wasn't necessarily a given. And while, yes, as we mentioned already, there were signs that could point to this development, as a first-time viewer, it's very easy to get caught by surprise for this mega-hype moment, thus making it more exciting. But the bigger reason, which also dovetails into the reason why scenes like this are such crowd-pleasers, ties into the larger narrative of the story being told. The path to that big moment in Avengers Endgame was extremely long, spanning more than a decade and 20 movies. There were just so many characters with so much going on over such a long span that the impact of the big team-up is diluted. Forget missing one or more of the prior movies. So much of it was so far in the past that the audience's connection to the character just couldn't possibly be as strong as it should have been. So yes, all the dozens of characters and more are there, but the emotional attachment really isn't. They're also sharing such limited screen time that it's hard for everyone to get enough time in our minds for the impact to work. You need a tighter focus for that. Their film team-up moment avoids this problem. First of all, it's much smaller in scale. Even counting the minor, often unnamed or unseen characters in the various teams, tanks, we have far fewer characters to keep in mind and get excited about being here. Never mind the fact that they each get their distinct moments to shine. But also, this was done over a much shorter time span. Just one 12-episode anime season, a 40-minute OVA, and then the first half of their film itself. And their film came out just 3 to 4 years after Season 1, keeping the gap shorter, and making it easier for any viewers who wanted to rewatch Season 1 as a refresher. The end result is a much closer connection to all of our old friends from Season 1, and of course the new faces we just met in the previous hour. So it hasn't been very long since we've seen Miho and the Ori girls grow these relationships, with everyone now running to their aid. And it also helps that this camaraderie between them all, as Senshiro competitors, is a major theme of the series, so it all flows very smoothly together. Spearheaded, of course, by, based on what we can infer, Miho's first opponent in Darjeeling, and her final opponent, her sister, Maho. Another key difference here is that there really isn't anything personally at stake for the other schools, as opposed to in Avengers Endgame, where Thanos winning, again, would ruin things for everybody. Here, all the girls that come to help Ori came simply because they wanted to help their friends, and because they can see that what's being done to them here isn't fair, and they won't stand for it. They personally didn't stand to lose anything, no matter what happened in this battle. That more selfless motivation also makes the whole moment, with each team getting their little intro moment and theme song, all the more powerful. Each one of them matters enough to get that, and they're not all just showing up as a giant mob. This is also enhanced as we see on the faces of the Ori girls just how much every new arrival matters to them. From Maho to the Pravda girls to Carpaccio, it's all about the impact on the character. And it's always fun to see Tangri lose his mind, as he doesn't get his way once again. And he has no way to stop it this time, since Alice also believes in fair play enough to not object to the new arrivals. Now the stage is fully set. We finally at least have 2 evenly sized teams, though one is of course still a uniform team that has a lot more experience, both in general and in working together, while the other is an ad hoc conglomerate of girls with wildly different tanks and battle philosophies. There is still going to be a very tough fight ahead, but once again, the odds have increased somewhat in Ori's favor here. How will this mishmash team work together and find their way to win? Well, we'll start taking a close look at the battle planning and the start of the battle itself in our next analysis video. If you enjoyed this video and like to support me and what I do here, my books and light novels are all available on Amazon. And you can get early access to videos, sneak peeks, and updates on my upcoming Military Mori manga and other projects by subscribing over on Patreon. I also offer channel memberships now, which get you access to monthly members-only watch-along streams, in which we're currently watching Space Battleship Yamato. It's really good, by the way. And as always, if you have any thoughts on this video or is anything Girls on Panzer related you'd like me to talk about, definitely share them in the comments section below. I'd love to hear them, and while I might not get to respond to every comment, at least not in a timely manner, I can guarantee that I read each of them. And don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell, so you don't miss any future uploads. That's all for now, so until next time.